Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Keith Hartley, CEO of LevaData. Thanks for joining today. You're with myself and Brian York, Chief Product Officer from LevaData, and we're here to talk about Part Insights Profile, the latest innovation from LevaData, the latest module in the LevaData application. Really excited to spend a few minutes with you all today, discuss this product innovation and what it means for direct material sourcing professionals. So, briefly, just one slide on LevaData as a company, and then we'll jump into the Part Insights Profile module. LevaData helps you as direct material sourcing professionals buy smarter. It's that simple. We are the largest and deepest blended or contextualized data set on the planet that serves up insights and shows you the path to take action and helps you take action based on those insights. So hundreds of millions of disparate data points that are in our blender or our engine, serving up insights and bouncing that against your direct material spend and the demand that you have for your products and your parts. Our vision and our mission is pretty simple. We just want to make sourcing professionals great. We want them to be highlighted, to drive real demonstrable value for your companies, and to help make more profitable and efficient product-based companies. So you'll see a screenshot on the screen here. We're going to jump into the product though and actually show it live during this meeting. And look, our customers tell us that every year, annually, they save between 6 and 10% on their direct material spend, which is directly attributable to their cost of goods sold or COGS. So this is real savings, real money back in their pocket. The 4 check marks on this box make us at LevaData unique. Not only do we blend your direct material spend, but we go live in a couple of months. And that's incredible. The pace at which we understand data, we blend data, we load it, and we present you with the screens and the application. We have many customers who buy from us in one quarter and begin negotiating that same quarter with their suppliers and contract manufacturers. All the change management and training is included. So there's not extra charges for training and change management, and you want to load data, it's unlimited data loads on LevaData. There's zero professional services, so there's not a hidden tax. You don't get a consulting bill. There's not a need for a high-priced system integrator to deliver a bunch of value. It's very straightforward using our system, and there are zero IT integrations. So if you can drag and drop a spreadsheet, or you can send a CSV file, drop it in a bucket, you can work with LevaData and we take it from there. Up until this point, we at LevaData have taken your direct material spend and loaded it into the system so that we can see what types of opportunities and savings. Today, we've released what we call Part Insights Profile. Now, this is every bit of known data that is known about a particular part in one easy to understand, easy to compare, easy to follow screen. We're going to be demoing this in about a minute or two. But everything that is known about that manufacturing part number or MPN, you get a 360-degree view of that part. Everything from obviously distributor, order quantities, price, alternate part matching, the health of that part, the strategic risk of that part, risk attributes like lead times and years to end of life, and then the financial health of that supplier or contract manufacturer. So all part information that is now known about the part. And the great thing about Part Insights Profile is you can copy and paste a part over into the system. You can type the part into the system. It's real time delivering actionable insights based on that part number. So it's a different modality for you to now use Part Insights Profile to augment your direct material sourcing role. And lastly, we're going to go through these features. I'm going to have Chief Product Officer Brian York walk us through some of these features. Again, it's delivering intense value and features all rolled up at one particular point. Now, today we're delivering that rolled up at the manufacturing part number level. In a matter of weeks, we're rolling this up at the supplier or vendor level as well. So you're going to have access to all of this information rolled up at the supplier, contract manufacturer level, vendor level, so that you can go into your next set of negotiations with complete knowledge, awareness, and strength to negotiate and get the best deals with your partners. So with that, I'd like to turn the screen over to Brian, and have Brian kind of walk you all through a little bit of the product. So, Brian, if you would take it away.
Hi, I'm Brian York. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at LevaData. And as Keith said, we want to introduce you to Part Insights, but more specifically, how you can use it as part of your daily sourcing cost management workflow. So let's look at this screen real quick. Part Insights profile. There's a lot of information about the part, but let's look at it in the context of what you might be doing on a daily basis. So I'm going to switch to this benchmark in the screen. And typically, when a sourcing manager is going to use Part Insights profile, they're trying to make a decision or avoid a surprise. So here, I'm looking at a simple list of parts. Maybe this is all of my parts, or maybe this is a product bomb that I'm looking at, or maybe I'm trying to look at a specific manufacturer that I'm going to have a review with or a QBR with, and I want to see what parts I'm purchasing from them and the overall health of my costs compared to benchmark costs, my lead times compared to what factory lead times are reported, and is the part active or is it being transferred or is it end of life? So those are kind of the quick things that I would look at. And so let's just look at it from that perspective. So let's say I'm talking to Vishay, I've got my 3 parts. Let's just jump in, especially this first one, because I can see that it says the status is transferred. So it means there's another part that I should be using because this one is end of life. So when I click on it, I'll see that same part insight profile that Keith was showing earlier and then I was showing you on that screen. And the point of this is it kind of level sets you on what you're looking at first. So you're looking at this particular part. There's the description of it. You can immediately see any CPNs, customer part numbers that are using this part. You can also click on it and it will open up the spend intelligence view of that part so that you can see what your current spend and demand is or what your forecasted spend and demand is. So in this case, I can see I've got about 1.5 million in spend for this particular CPN and I'm increasing my demand. So this is a rather important part. And there's that part number, and I'm purchasing it from Celestica, my contract manufacturer. So with that one click, I was able to see some historical knowledge, who I'm using, how my demand's going up. This part is important, 1.5 million in spend. So that's where I'm at. So now when I look over to the right, I can immediately see, okay, well, my current minimum cost is 43 cents for that part. LevaData is telling me that the benchmark for this part is 37 cents. Okay, well, that's just a number in the air. What does that mean? All right. So let's look at that. Let's look at the benchmark range. So what this now shows you is this number is the LevaData benchmark. So based on all the people that we see buying that part, we see that the benchmark is probably around 37 cents and the median forecasted demand is about 800,000 units to achieve that price. Okay, so now I can see my part price plotted on this benchmark range. So I can see my part price here, the 43 cents. I can see my forecasted demand is 3.5 million units. I can also see that the distributor benchmark, which is the median authorized distributor price, is around 53 cents. And typically they're looking for a minimum order quantity of 2,500 units. So I can quickly see where I fall in the range of pricing. Distributor benchmark would be your worst price. LevaData benchmark is what our average customers are paying for it. And if you can extend further into this green line, you're just doing better than the average. So that's great. So now you have a realistic perspective of where you're at and where you could or should be. And we quantify the potential savings if you could move your price to this LevaData benchmark based on your future demand. It's almost $250,000 of savings that you could achieve. So just within the first 2 areas of Part Insights, you've really got some good information on your pricing and where you can go. So typical questions that come up are, okay, well, that's great. How do I go and get that price? So you need to understand the leverage that you have with that price. So first of all, we're already showing you our customers at a median lower demand than you have already is getting a lower price. So that's one perspective. But let's also look, there are a lot of distributors that are supporting or selling this part. And over half of these distributors are selling it in the $0.50 to 30 cent range, which is already lower than your current price of 43 cents. So right off the bat, you can see the market is, half of them already have a better price than what you're being offered. All right. So that gives me confidence because now I could go back to Vishay in my quarterly review and say, hey, on this, we need to work on the price because it looks like the market shifted and the pricing is lower, and I need to receive that share of lower price. So let's look at the market. Let's see how pricing has changed over time. So I can see this blue line, that's my cost. So my price has stayed flat for the past 12 months. Looks like I negotiated a relatively good price back in the day, but the market has slowly eroded and pricing has gone down. And now there's this 17% gap between my price and the benchmark price. So there's your target right there. Vishay, hey, I need to see a 17% reduction in this price for multiple reasons that you can explain and defend above here. Now that's just pricing. Let's look at other things that count for the health or sourceability of a part. So we'll come back to alternates in a second. So let's look at the sourcing health of it. So right now, as we already knew, this was an end of life part. So that's a problem. I need to be switching to the part that they're saying I should transfer to, which is probably this alternate part. And I'll look at that in a second. But the other thing you should notice too is that from a demand perspective, I've got 3 million units of demand for the next 4 quarters that I need to support. And right now with this part, distribution only has 7% of that. And of that distribution, the majority of it is owned by brokers. Only 13% of this inventory is controlled by authorized distributors. So that starts to get dicey because brokers typically buy up end of life parts. They start to hoard it so they can arbitrage it, jack up the price, make higher margins once that part goes away. So that's something to pay attention to. We can also see the health of Vishay just from a stock market perspective, stock price. That's just a window of how are they doing financially in a broad sense. The stock price usually dictates how they're doing. And so right now they're at a, 12-month low potentially. So if you have a large buy, if it's coming up within the next earnings call of February 3rd of next year, it may be a small or large leverageable advantage year to use. All right. So now we know this part is EOL. Right now we can already see we should have a lower price than what we already have. We have a quantified savings amount. Let's look at this alternate part and compare it. So this is a different Vishay part. This might be the part that they're saying we need to transfer over to. And I can see that I'm actually already using this part because I can see I have a CPN. So this is the beauty of using LevaData when we are managing your data for you, where we have your part numbers, your suppliers, your prices, your volumes, because you're able to see your data in context of all these blended insights that I'm showing you. And I haven't had to swivel chair, go log into something else, change to another screen. I'm just clicking and seeing all of this information in context as I'm kind of thinking through this in my head. What's going on with this part? What do I need to talk about? What should be my goal when I'm talking to them? So right now we're looking at this alternate part. So I can see my price for this part also that I'm buying is above the LevaData benchmark. I have a savings associated with that as well. Now, if I scroll down to life cycle, I can see the life cycle is much better for this part. It's a 14-year-old part, but it's still got 7 years of life left. This is probably the part that they want me to transfer to. This is something that I would want to talk to Vishay about that, hey, should I be using this M01 instead of the MA1? And if it is, Maybe I want to check the data sheet just to make sure that the specs still align with what I need for my product. I can quickly look that up. And then I also now have the information of there's a savings opportunity tied with this part. I have leverage. So I want to also ask or firmly suggest that I get a lower price. And additionally, I can also look at Vishay as a vendor. I can come in and see what are other opportunities I have by part number with them and what are other potential risks that I have. So here's some parts where there's some savings. We were just looking at this one. Here's some parts where I'm sole source for this part. So I don't have a lot of options, though. I might want to look up some options for these. I can also see where they're generally located, manufacturing facilities, in case one of these green dots is located in a trouble area. I might want to bring that up. And ask, are my parts coming from that trouble area? When you do have your spend loaded with LevaData, you can also see over time with a vendor, you can see what amount of spend did you get a lower cost on those parts. That would be shown in green. Or what amount of spend did my costs go up? Or what amount of spend did my price stay flat? So in this case, I switched over to Texas Instruments. I can see in general for the next 4 quarters, they're typically giving me some lower price parts, but I can still see a bunch that's flat. So maybe that makes sense for TI. Maybe I'm finding a whole bunch of parts where it looks like I should also get lower costs. So this green bar should be more. So all of this is to give you information and click away in the context to help you with that conversation and to give you the leverage to get sourceable parts at a good price from your vendors.
This is huge. This modality of information that is now at your fingertips for a sourcing professional. Most of us in sourcing have to go to a number of spots. I have to go to the spreadsheet for end of life information. Then I have to go and try to find a distributor benchmark or some better alternate third party benchmark in another site. And then I have to try to figure out the demand to try to get a demand signal. And then if I'm fortunate enough to actually track end of life or get that information, I have to go to another data blob and try to find that information. Now all of this information is blended and contextualized in a manner that a sourcing professional can go and experience solving any use case that comes our way. Because the one use case, as you and I talk about all the time, everyone comes to LevaData to save money. And when they start saving money, they explore all of these other use cases that our product helps them solve in their day-to-day jobs. So I think just the power of having all of this information together in one spot is a real game changer for direct material sourcing. And now you're able to engage with this just by going in and typing in a part number and looking at what LevaData knew that part.
Yeah. And, it's really great to use as a tool to trust but verify. All of our users, they have partners. It's either a component manufacturer that they're buying the parts from, they're a partner. Like they need to have a good relationship to make sure that they continue to get parts to build their widgets. Same thing with a contract manufacturer. It's a partnership. So nobody's here to beat somebody up. It's just tracking the information, getting the best insights so that you have a fair conversation with your partners and they act as a partner. So in this example here, I'm just looking at another part. I'm going to be talking Thai Yuden. And generally, I started off with a really good price that I negotiated for 12 months. The price is coming down. I can see it from the next four closest alternates, and the benchmark price for this part has gone down. So I have clear indication that the market is moving. I can clearly talk about this and explain this to Thai Yuden. And now I have really a fair request that, look, I just want to achieve what the market is doing. So I need to get a price reduction on this part. So again, all of this blended information is great for parts that you're managing. You're trying to make sure that you're using the right part. You're trying to make sure that you're getting it at the right cost. You're also able to look for parts where maybe the information you have versus what your component manufacturer is saying is completely different. For example, in this case, I have a great price. I'm doing really well, but I'm noticing that I'm being told from my contract manufacturer that's a 52-week lead time for this part, but the factory lead time is only 7 weeks. So there's a huge miscommunication here. And if I let this linger, I'm potentially going to buy way too much of this part. I'm going to end up with excess inventory that I don't need to be burning my cash on. This happens time and time again. We see this with customers. Either they're being told a lead time is too long or it's too short and it's not up to date with what the market currently reflects. A lot of times it's stale data that needs to be refreshed with the customer. Or sometimes there is a disconnect and it does need to be addressed so they don't run into these excess inventory buys or inventory gaps.
Great example of trust but verify right there. A very common use case where lead time differential between what they're being told and what we're seeing.
And so, I've shown a lot of examples where you're managing parts that exist in your world already. Not only is this good for procurement, this is good for engineering as well, because there's going to be revs of products that you do. And just because you've had this design for the past 10 revisions doesn't mean that's the best choice of components anymore. And now procurement and engineering can look at the current status of the park selection, look at the alternatives, and see if now might be a better time to change to get better pricing and life cycle characteristics so that you're ensuring the sourceability of it in the future. And when you're doing that, working with engineers, there's also new products. There's new parts that you might be adding to a BOM that you've never managed before. And you can simply just type in that part and hit search, and it's going to show you the closest match to that part, but it's also going to show you other matches as well where the characters start to differ, just in case you need to look at those versions. And all you do is you click on it, and we can quickly see what's the distributor benchmark for it, what's the LevaData benchmark for it. Now, your cost isn't shown here because you haven't been purchasing this part yet, but you can still get insights to know, okay, now that I'm designing this in, I should be falling somewhere in this range. Let me see what the MOQs are from distributors. I can see it goes as high as 120,000 units. I should be getting it for a couple of cents. Okay, that's good because I think the demand plan for this product is going to be 50,000 units, whatever. And so the point is now you have this proactive information where you can choose the best part, the best pricing, the best sourcing characteristics. Like, here's an alternative to this part, but it's 25-week lead time. Maybe I want to stay away from this part. And I can see the health of this part that I'm potentially about to choose. It's been around a long time. It's going to be around for another 6 years at least. And it's got a decent lead time, 12 weeks. So now when you're building this new product, you can optimize the cost and sourceability of it. And that's the perfect time, the best time where you have the easiest opportunity to build the most profitable product. Because once you get it locked in, it's approved, and this is the part we're going to use, it becomes a little harder to change or switch out what part you could use that might be cheaper or have a better lead time or sourceability. So again, part insights can be used for new parts, work with your engineering counterparts. You can send this information to them. You can copy the link, send them the link, they could log in, or you could export this as a PDF or an image and send it to them in an email and say, hey, I know we're looking at this part that's EOL. We're coming up with a new rev on this product. Let's take a look at these other parts that might be optional things that we could design in now and make the sourcing and cost of the product better.
Thanks, Brian, for that walkthrough of Part Insights profile. Very informative. And I want to thank everyone who joined for the webinar or who might be watching the recorded version of this. For more information on Part Insights profile, head over to levadata.com and get more information. We also have a free trial access to Part Insights profile. If you just go to levadata.com/free-trial, register, you will have free access to Part Insights profile for you to play around and get familiar with the latest functionality from LevaData. Thanks, and hope you all have a wonderful day. Cheers.